and welcome to Politics and Prose bookstore. My name is Ramsey. I'm an event staffer here at Politics and Prose, where we host in-person events along with partnered and supported events, trips, and classes. For a full list of everything confirmed, please go to our website, politicsandprose.com. Before we get started today, I'd like to ask you to please silence your cell phones so not to disrupt the event. When we get time to open the floor to questions, I'd like everyone to take their seats, please. Okay. Following the Q&A, we'll be having a signing up here at this table. So if you've not already purchased the book, we have many copies behind the register at the front of the store. We ask you to line up behind the Q&A mic here and come by to ask for personalizations. Once the event is complete, we ask that we fold up your chairs and lean them against something sturdy to help us out a bit. So now, without further ado, I'm glad to welcome Jennifer Oko, celebrating the release of Just Emilia. Jennifer is a writer, journalist, and filmmaker. Her memoir, Lying Together, was a New York Times Book Review editor's choice. She's also the author of two previous novels, Gloss, a satire of morning television, which was a USA Today hot summer read, and Headcase, a comic mystery about psycho-pharmaceutical trafficking, which she swears is not an autobiographical in any way. She lives in Washington, D.C. with her family. Jennifer will be in competition with Angie Kim, a Korean immigrant, former editor of the Harvard Law Review, and debut author of the international bestseller and Edgar winner Miracle Creek, named Best Book of the Year by Time, The Washington Post, The Kirkus, and Today's Show, among others. Kim has written for Vogue, the New York Times Book Review, Washington Post, Glamour, and numerous literary journals. Please join me in welcoming to Politics and Prose, Jennifer and Angie.
I brought out I brought out my phone and I was like, oh yeah, I want to take pictures. And she was like, I think there are going to be some people in the audience taking pictures. Welcome everybody. I'm so excited to be here. Congratulations.
I
It's
guess
your
I have to
launch
hold
day.
this today.
Woohoo!
Thank
All right,
you.
we're going to start with a toast. Today is the publication launch day, the book's birthday for this gorgeous book. And I want to say congratulations. And I'm so excited to be in conversation with you about it. Yay! Okay. All right. So I'm going to start by raving about this book and about you for a little bit first. So I'm going to embarrass you. So, okay. So this is your fourth book. You've written a memoir, a satire, a comic mystery. Your books have been named, Editor's Choice, which is like the dreamiest thing from New York Times Book Review. Your work has been called Simply Riveting by New York Times and a rare treat by the Chicago Tribune. It's been optioned for TV. And now this, which is such a beautiful, trippy, time travel book, plus a deeply moving story about family, mothers and daughters, and grief, and also a very psychologically insightful coming of age story. So I just wanted to say, in preparing for today, I was going through some of the reviews that you have, and I was just struck and not a little envious about how many amazing reviews you have of people who are just saying this is like the most unique and fresh concept and premise ever, which I totally agree with. And so, and the amazing Mary Kay Zuracleff called Zuracleff. Yeah, I always butcher her name. Oh, I hope she's not here. I hope she's not here. Okay. Oh, good. I'm so glad. Please don't anybody tell her that I butchered her name. But she called The stuck elevator that's at the center of this book, a black box, a hall of mirrors, and a Swiss Army knife with hers that you turned into an amazing thing with your astonishing storytelling powers. And this is one of my favorite reviews that I read. Another early reader said the premise of this book, meeting your younger and older self and actually being trapped with them in an elevator, is genius, which I totally agree. And the author adeptly handles the impossibility so that it actually feels possible. So much so that I spent more time examining people I'm in the elevator with these days, and as soon as I read that, I was like, oh my God, I did that. I did that the other day. I was in an elevator and I was like, what if I got stuck in an elevator with these people? So hooray, I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited to be here. Okay, so to get us started, I want you to tell us like your elevator pitch. Haha. Did you see what I did there? Just for people who haven't had a chance to read it yet. And then I would love if you could read from your book a little bit, because I love the voice and it's just so immediately captivating and I want to hear it.
Okay, well, I don't even know
That was
where
a
to
lot. I'm sorry.
Can I just say that I'm in awe of you. So for you to say those things to me is just incredible. So thank you. I'm beyond moved by this. So we'll come back to that in a little bit. An elevator pitch.
Elevator pitch.
It really depends on who I'm talking to, quite honestly, but I guess I'm talking to you all. So this is the story of three women who are stuck in an elevator, and one is 17, one is 47, and one is 77. And in very short order, they discover that they are the same woman, and they need to figure out what they need to do to get out. That's the pitch.
Okay. I love it. I love it. Okay, so can you read for us a little bit?
Sure.
Okay.
Do I have to stand there, or can I like sit?
You can do either. You can totally do either.
Okay, hold on one second.
Whatever you would like.
These, because I am closer. Well, I'm closer to the middle woman, but edging toward the older woman in the book. So I need these.
I'm going to be asking you about that.
Yes. Before I start, though, wait. I actually, just a few words here. Like, people have come here from Texas. The book is dedicated to my friend Tula, because she, more than anybody, has suffered through this book with me. And she is the most patient, wonderful, supportive friend, and everyone would be so lucky to have a friend like her. So thank you. And I picked her up at the Friendship Heights Metro elevator, and it kind of got stuck for a second. And so we were like, this is good. And then wait, hold on, I have a little list so I don't. Okay, Politics and Prose, this is like bucket list check. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Angie, just thank you. Miriam.
She's right there.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so everybody needs to know that Miriam and I are in the middle of like the most insane, amazing project we've ever had. She's my production partner, for those who don't know. It's insane. We're so busy, and I've completely flaked out on her recently, so thank you. And she brought the Prosecco, so thank you.
Yay, the Prosecco.
She's definitely another one I couldn't have done this without, and the one I really, really couldn't have done this without is Michael. I love you. Thank you. You put up with a lot. And then this is a hugely proud moment for me, but the things I'm most proud of in this world, the two things I'm most proud of are back there, Jasper and Lila. You guys are amazing. And I just also want to say that the world is impossible right now. And I've been really grateful for this distraction. And so I hope that this gives you all like a nice little distraction from the horror that's going on. So, and with that, okay, hold on a second. Let me figure out where I am, because I actually took the wrong book with me. Tula, we worked so hard to get this organized, and I failed. Or maybe I should do it there so I can.
Sure,
yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, hold on. Bear with me, people. What do? I put this down here?
Yeah.
Is this on?
It should be on, right?
Yeah. Okay, so what you need to know for context, because this isn't the very start, is it's close to the beginning, but these three women have already been in the elevator for a couple of hours, and Mostly it's been dark. It's been light here and there. So they've sort of got glimpses of each other, but not great ones. And now the light has just turned on. So suddenly, as if to oblige me, the light turns shockingly bright and holds steady. My eyes take a moment to adjust, and then I idly cast my gaze around the small space. The down arrow of the button panels to the girl's head looked like some sort of ominous message, so I followed the direction, ultimately locking eyes with the teenager beneath. She still curled up against her knees, her sweatshirt pulled over her legs, the school logo stretched across the dark fabric like a billboard, the tips of her boots sticking out cartoonishly from under the hem. Now, isn't this a coincidence, I say, as if I hadn't already had that thought hours before. What? Asked the girl. I went there, I say, wagging a finger at her chest. What do you mean? Your sweatshirt, Washington Day School? I went there, I had the same one. Oh, she says, biting on a cuticle. She doesn't seem to know what to do with this information, but offers up that yes, she's supposed to graduate in the spring, but please don't ask her about college applications, she says, making a millisecond of eye contact with me before shrinking back against the wall. I nod knowingly. That awkward gesture, that insecure slouch, it's all so familiar. I'm sure I know her from somewhere. Hair color, eye color, and height aside, she could almost pass for an older, surlier version of Sonia. With the sharp angles of her shoulder practically framing her ears and her small body engulfed by her extra-large hoodie, she looks fragile and sad, and it breaks my heart a little. I remember exactly how it felt to be a teenage girl feeling like that. What's your name? I ask. She scowls at me through her darkly lined eyes as if to say, you first, as if this question were a dare. Okay, I relent. I'm Emilia, and you are? But the older woman answers before the girl can respond, a bemused expression crossing her face. So am I, she says, with a quick, surprised smile. Wrinkles envelop her papery skin in the harsh glare of the fluorescent light, like one of those sped-up videos showing cracks rippling across a drought-struck, dusty earth. As her smile recedes, the lines disappear, blurring back into her face as quickly as they came. I briefly avert my eyes. Emilia, the old woman says, drawing me back. That's my name, too. Really? I say. That's funny. Because it is, but also it's not. I glance at her quickly and then over to the girl and then back. Emilia with 2 eyes? Most people call me Millie. Well, that's easy then. I say nobody has ever called me Millie, nor will they, I hope. I can almost smell the mothballs when I say the name. My husband sometimes calls me Mills, but that's as close as it gets. Actually, if I'm being honest, he hasn't been using any nicknames lately, nor has he in a long while. He used to have scores of them for me. Now it's just Emilia all the time, and often with an exasperated emphasis on the final A, Emilia. But I don't say that. Anyway, I say instead, it's nice to meet you, Millie. I stretch out a hand. She doesn't take it. No, thank you. Right, I drop my arm. Of course, she knows where our hands have been. Quick aside, there's a scene before where they have to pee, and that's all I'm going to say. Regardless, it's nice to... That's so weird, the girl pipes up before Millie can finish her reply. That's my name, too. Emilia? Millie and I both ask. I mean, sort of, says the girl, sounding more animated than she has been this whole time. Nobody ever calls me that. Most people call me M, but it's kind of a nickname. I mean, because M, Millie and I interrupt in unison, and the girl nods, causing the hood to finally fall back off her head. Yes, I say, that is definitely odd. M was my nickname when I was a kid who looked a lot like the one in front of me now. Millie, were you once an M too? I asked the older woman, this Millie. This is some kind of joke, right? Because come on, as much as my gut is starting to tell me one thing, my head is telling me another. All 3 of us with the same name, all stuck in the same elevator together? What are the chances of that? That would be ridiculous, beyond ridiculous. It would be totally absurd. Except the older woman quickly says yes. Yes, she was. She pushes an errant strand of white hair behind one ear. She blows out a slow breath. I was once called M too for a short period of time, she says quietly. Her voice is clear, but there is a raspy undertone that suggests she is or was once a smoker, or maybe it's just the gravelly voice of the very old. When I left for college, I insisted that everyone call me Emilia. Over time, it morphed into Millie. How come? I ask. That's what my granddaughter called me when she was little. I like it. It reminds me of her. This is really weird, says M, stating the obvious, except that what's simply weird for M is quickly becoming, at least for me, more than a little bit disturbing. I don't dare ask for their last names.
Thank you. I love that selection. It's perfect because it's like the moment when I first read it, I specifically did not, I knew that they were stuck in the elevator, but I didn't know who they were to each other. And that was such a delicious moment because I didn't read the back cover, which actually kind of is a spoiler in that way.
No, it is.
Right? But it's also part of the premise that makes it so delicious. So you kind of had to.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to talk about the time travel element here a little bit because this is not, I mean, there's a light sci-fi, element to it, which I think is really fun. And I personally love time travel. So I was like completely into this. And I love that the three Emilias who are stuck together kind of acknowledge that this is not possible. And they're talking about like the physics. And if you're occupying the same space, doesn't like the space-time continuum blow up, a la Back to the Future or something. So I just love that. And I read that Laura Scalzo said, this is like, it trips the space-time continuum. And another reader called this a dimensional mishap, which I also love. But it's not about time travel. It's a reflection of the deepest wish that I think we all have, which is that, like, it would be great if we could help our past selves to do better and give them some advice. And like, also, wouldn't it be great if we could ask our future selves, like, what happens? Again, do the choices that we make right now, like, what ends up like happening as a result of that? So to me, it's like this amazing metaphysical kind of elevator, where they're all coming together, much less so than a literal one. So I just wanted you to talk about that and how you came up with that concept of these three people and whether this is like a literal, the three people coming together, or whether it's more sort of like metaphysical, and does that even matter? So it's a lot.
Okay, so like quick aside, I went to art school and I made these really weird photographs with Bozo the Clown that I would like hand color.
Ooh.
And we'd have these critique sessions. And it was hilarious because everyone would come up and they'd be like, well, my Marxist interpretation of this is this. And they'd come up with these like crazy ideas of what I, the artist, was thinking when I made it. And the truth is, I, the artist, wasn't really thinking anything. I mean, it was just like, it just kind of happened.
Yeah.
And I wish I could say that, like, I'm really, well learned in the art of the metaphysical.
Right.
I'm not.
And quantum physics and all
yeah,
that.
I don't know anything about quantum physics. I tried to learn a little. It really didn't go well.
Yeah. I love
like,
that.
It's like there are times, I mean, you know this when you're writing and you're like, where the hell did that come from?
Yeah.
That's what this is.
So let's go there. Where the hell did this come from? I've read some interviews and also seen some of the things that you've talked about where the idea of the elevator came. Would you tell us that story?
Yeah, well, so that's actually a true story. I was stuck in the metro elevator in Friendship Heights, but probably, I mean, maybe
Which is
a
so
second.
close to us, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, but I was there. It happened, and like it jerked, and there were a couple of other people in the elevator with me, and we got out within a second. It wasn't a big deal, but it got me thinking about, if I was stuck in the elevator with somebody, like, who would I want to be stuck in an elevator with? And who wouldn't I want to be stuck in an elevator with?
Yeah.
And like that very quickly landed on the obvious. I didn't want to be stuck in an elevator with me because like that would be really hard.
But you were thinking about you as like the present day you.
But then it was like, well, that's not a very interesting story, is it? Like one person stuck in the elevator with themselves.
Yeah.
For days on it. I don't know, it just sort of evolved. And actually it's really awesome because like there are people here who were with me through this evolution.
So when did that happen? Because I read that when that happened to you, you wrote the first line of the book when you got home, and that's still the first line.
I was
of the book.
I can't remember it exactly, but like I was the first one
I
to
was the
step
first
in.
one to step. Yeah, I was the last one.
I was
to
the
step
last
in.
one to step in, rather. Yeah.
Hey, I know your book better than you do.
Yeah.
So when was that?
I mean, it was like 20. I had to look and find that Word doc,
Yeah.
like back in the like bowels of my old computer, basically. 2016 December.
Okay.
So a while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
9 years ago.
Yeah.
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 Wow.
This book took a long time.
Yeah.
And I put it aside for years. It came back.
Yeah.
I think during the pandemic was when I really kind of dug in.
Yeah.
There was one point I had 2 other novels that were like 50,000 words in, and I was sort of like, which one? Like, pick one.
Yeah.
And I just picked this one.
Oh, I
know
love
Jasper
that.
wanted me to pick a different one. Sorry.
Oh.
But we'll come back to that.
So for this one, so the idea of the 3 selves, because I think that's what makes it like so incredible, like, you know, because it's kind of like the Scrooge story, you know, it's like the ghost of the past and present and future, except that it's yourself, and it seems so natural. I mean, just the excerpt that you just read just now. So I love that evolution of thought that you had there.
It's funny. There's this office that Miriam and I've worked at in New York, and they have these wonderful photographs in their bathrooms of people reading books on subways. And there's this one girl reading a book who looks so much like I looked like in high school. And every time I looked at it, I was like, would I recognize myself? Like, would I know that it was me if I walked up to me?
Yeah.
But for me anyway, I mean, I think it is a fairly constant conversation I have in my head, you know, especially with all due respect, hi Lila, being a mom.
Yeah.
You know, you want to do better for your children, so you ask yourself a lot about what you did for yourself. And did I do okay? Okay.
Oh, I love that. Well, I mean, so let's go there with respect to the mother-daughter element that's in this story. So there is, in addition to the time travel element, there's also the mystery element, which really kept me going, because you hear about it and you know that this is a very important day in Emilia's life. It's the anniversary of her mother's death and the car accident that the whole family was in when she was little. And we know something happened, but we don't know exactly what. And it's you just do such a beautiful job of like building suspense and sort of like, you know, giving us little tidbits here and there and little crumbs. And what comes out, of course, is what happened to, you know, the accident, which is something that all 3 Emilias really have to reckon with, but also just, you know, what happened with the mom. So talk a little bit about the mother-daughter relationship and like when that sort of evolved into the story, and the concept that you're meeting somebody who's 30 years older than you. So like basically like kind of your mom figure, and then somebody who's 30 years younger than you, like your daughter.
Yeah. And I didn't plan for this to come out at exactly the same time that Lila's 17. So this is not Lila and this is not me. I'm sorry. But when I first wrote it, they actually didn't get out of the elevator and it became very claustrophobic. And I needed some sort of vehicle that would be impacting them at these very critical life stages. And how would that impact her? And how would that impact the decisions that she made and the relationships that she had?
Yeah.
And it just sort of seemed obvious that it had to be something traumatic with her mother. I mean, it just as a daughter, hi mom, I know you're watching somewhere on the live stream. It's a really complicated it's a love-filled relationship. It's a complicated relationship, and it seemed as a writer to be a really good vehicle to sort of hang this all on. Yeah, and that's how it evolved.
Oh, I love that, and I really feel like there's just so many layers with her relationship with her mother, who is in television. So her mother, who passed away long ago, is a celebrity. She's a TV anchor, and she was super well known. And you actually have, I'm going to read like part of your bio here. You spent 2 decades working for like the big TV networks. You've written about the world, especially in gloss. You left that world to start a video production company because media with Miriam, which is how I met you. And I just wanted to know, like, why did you choose that world to sort of go back into? Is there any significance to the fact that the mom isn't like they don't have the best relationship, at least in her memory, and she is kind of representing that world. So I'd love to get your thoughts about how like that played into the whole writing process and into the story.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you write what you know, and working in television is an incredible experience. And so, and one of the things that did always stick out for me when we were doing like live shots or pieces in the field for CBS, there was this thing about how do you make the stand-up interesting? And that's the scene where you first see the mothers, like there's coming out of the escalator with this like halo over her head. So that sort of just seemed, I'm very comfortable in that space. Yeah. A friend of mine, Molly, who couldn't be here tonight, but I think she's watching too, actually said something to me the other day that kind of blew me away because I hadn't thought about it. But the mother became a famous woman in the news business at a time that it was really hard to do that, right? And so she's this distant mom who has this really successful career. And there is something there that's sort of almost like a feminist story where like the mom, in order to be as successful as she could be, couldn't really be the mom she needed to be for Emilia, except for in small little isolated, moments. And it's funny when your friends pull things out of your own novel that you didn't really think about, but I think it was so true. And when I look back at my own career in television, and the women who were slightly older than me and how hard they worked and how much they had to sacrifice to get there, it was like, Molly, you're brilliant. That's exactly right.
No, totally. Yeah. I was thinking about that a lot because the mother is, she's very famous and she has these huge expectations for her daughter. And so of course, really kind of resents that and is worried and feels guilty about disappointing her mother. And so that's part of that lifelong guilt that she has to deal with, that she never was able to talk about that with her mom. And I feel like, in a way, in the elevator with the older version of herself, she kind of gets a chance to.
Yeah, I think that's, yes. You got it.
I love that. And the other thing that I love about what you were able to do with sort of the 3 people who are talking about some of the same things is the role of memory. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about sort of how you teased out how we remember different things and and how your memory kind of evolves as you go over time? Because there are some things that, they're like, I kind of remember the skeletal elements of that event, but that's not sort of the emotional takeaway that they have.
Yeah, my first book was a memoir. And even when I was writing that, I was like, I don't really know that this actually happened exactly like I'm writing it. I'm taking some liberties here because we don't ever, I don't ever remember anything perfectly. And it does ebb and flow and change and sort of fits the situation and the circumstance. And so we are very unreliable narrators of our own lives.
Definitely.
And I think having these different perspectives of one person sort of checking you, I like that.
Yeah, no, I love that. And also, I love that, I wasn't even going to ask you about this, but having written a memoir, I'm positive that probably gives you like a special insight into memory because you are having to worry about things like that, right? So how has the process been different between writing a memoir and, you've now written 3 fictional works, but still?
In some ways, it's totally different. The memoir started as a diary that I was writing through a very difficult part of my life. That when I came back from living in Russia, I was like, hey, there's like a story here. That's sort of how that started. And fiction, I think, is in some ways easier, in some ways harder. But also, this is a very unsatisfying answer, but I think it all kind of comes from the same place, right? My head, me. But to be able to take liberties with my imagination is a huge gift. And I once I wrote the memoir, I was kind of like done with that. And my day job is all about telling actually true stories. And so it's really fun to have the ability to let my imagination kind of go to really goofy places. And they're way goofier places it goes to than made it into the actual novel. But it's fun. It's like really fun. Like on a good writing day, you're like, that was so cool.
Yeah.
Right.
I definitely feel you. I didn't have a good writing day today, so I can't say that I remember that feeling right now. But
I haven't in a really long time.
Yeah. No, but you have the excuse of this one coming out.
That's right. Yeah.
So the one thing, because I've written some essays too, and I feel like the one thing that's very different is that generally when you're writing an essay or a memoir or something, you generally know the contours of where the story is going, like what happens at the very basic level. Did you know with this story?
No. So you writers out there, I'm sure, are familiar with the whole pantser and plotter thing. Like, do you actually write this intricate outline? Like, J.K. Rowling had like these graphs of everything that went on for books. It was crazy, right? Yeah. No, I can't write until I'm sitting in front of my computer with my fingers on the keyboard, and like, it just takes me somewhere. And then I write myself into a corner, and then I have to write myself out of the corner.
Yeah.
And some of you have been very gracious in reading along with me as I write into these corners, and like, you're like, no. But that's how I do it. I have no idea where I'm going. Yeah. And that's why the other two books are sort of stuck, because I don't know how
so
to
you didn't know what had happened with the mother?
Not at all.
When you started?
Not at all.
So you were just as curious as the rest of us, like going, what in the hell happened with the mother that she's so traumatized?
Yeah.
Like,
no, I had no idea what I was doing with this story.
I really think that there's this thing about, I like to do what I call sort of method writing, like kind of like method acting, where you try to become that character. And, in method acting, they always tell you, if you don't actually feel it yourself, even if your face looks the same, even if your voice sounds the same, the audience can tell. And I totally feel that way about books. Like if you've already planned it out so you're not surprised as you're writing it, I think we can tell. Like, it can be surprising because of the facts and things like that. But just the delight, like just the part when they're trying to figure out who they are. And it was like slowly dawning on me as I was reading, like, oh my God, is that what's happening? These people are the same. Like, it was so delightful. And I think we can feel that.
It's funny you should say that, because I've been thinking that a lot lately, that it is like acting. Like, I can't act. Yeah. And in high school, I was in Guys and Dolls, and I can't sing, and they told me to lip sync. Like, I'm terrible.
Guys and Dolls was my first production that I was ever in.
But were you allowed to sing? Because I wasn't.
Yeah, no. I was, yes. I was hired because of the singing. Yeah. Yeah.
But when I'm sitting there writing, it sort of hit me at one point, like this must be when they talk about dramatic arts, like this is actually what it is that you're trying to embody the character.
Yes.
You're trying to understand the motivations of the character.
Absolutely.
And you have to go deep.
Yeah.
And it can be really painful. So like writing a book about hard things can be really hard.
Yeah.
And you don't want to like run into a writer after they spent a day writing about some traumatic event, because they're usually really awful afterwards. Sorry, Michael.
Well, no, but that actually like brings me to talking about characters and becoming the characters. So one of the things that I loved about this, and I thought was so sophisticated about it, was that they're the same person, but they're not the same character. So they're three separate characters because they have become separate people. And I know you don't want to get into like the quantum physics of it all, but I'm guessing that, after they leave the elevator and go off into their own things, they're gonna like be on their own parallel, quantum, like sort of things, and they're not going to be on the same timeline. They're going to be on three separate timelines. And yeah, because they've changed.
Yeah.
And so how did you figure out these three characters? Like, did you always know that, well, you just said no. So you didn't know at the very beginning that these three people were, the same person, but they have to be like similar enough so that they are the same person, but then they have to be different enough so that they're three separate characters. How did you do that?
I don't know. But I mean, we are all the same and different, right?
Yeah.
I look.
But did you think about it like, okay, so if M is like this as a teenager and Emilia is like this as a middle-aged woman, then when she grows up and not grows up, we're grown up, but you know what I mean. When she gets older, and then she's gonna be like that. Like, do you know what I mean?
Little, like what are the pain that she had from her mom? Like,
how would that affect
it affects
her?
her at this age, like this, and how is it affecting her at 47 and 77 specifically? Yes, very much so. I mean, I really tried to think about what that would mean to a 47-year-old woman at that stage in her life, and like, why was her marriage kind of not? Sorry, we're giving away so much. I'm sorry, but that's actually in the beginning. So
yeah, that's in the beginning. I think.
Yeah. I mean, like,
her marriage not being great is
not being great.
Yeah,
and
but we don't know what's going to happen as a result of them coming together. So
right, but how does that event influence how she behaves in her marriage and her relationships? And the same with the older woman, with Millie. Like, how does she relate to her daughter and her granddaughter, and the impact of that trauma? What has it done to these later generations of herself and her offspring?
Absolutely, I love that. Okay, I'm gonna just ask like a couple more questions before I turn it over to this audience. The other thing that I loved about it, which one to ask? I have so many questions. I wanted to ask you about humor, because that's one of the great things about this. I mean, and also it's different kinds of humor. There's like the kind of warm humor that I feel like kind of envelops the whole book and the whole story. But then there's also like the sarcastic, like the teenager, and then there's like the witty kind of, banter that goes on between the middle-aged Emilia and Millie, the older. So how did you do that? And because I just like, do people say that you're really, really funny, and that's how like it becomes part of your writing?
Am I
what
funny?
do you guys think? Yeah, you guys think so? All right. Well, if your kids are saying that you're funny, I think
but they kind of have
probably
to, because I let them have some prosecco.
Oh, okay. I don't know that we want to be saying this on a live streamed. Recorded.
I love the parts when they're like irritating each other with their humor, right? Like, you're not fun. Like, you think you're funny, you're not funny. Like, I'm not laughing at your own.
But it's funny because it's funny that they.
But it's funny to think like you're the same person, so you kind of know the punchline. So you've sort of like taken a little bit of the oxygen out of the like. There's a whole dynamic that happens when you're telling yourself jokes, right?
Yeah,
like they're
definitely. Definitely, except that again, as we established, they're not the same.
But they're not the same, right?
And also, I think there can be like a revelatory aspect too, where you're like, "Oh, maybe I am really funny because this person is making me laugh," that kind of thing.
And I think that does happen, right? Like, there are parts of this person that I've really struggled with for my whole life that I really like, and that's that's the thing.
Yeah, and that you need to basically like forgive yourself a little bit, Okay, I'm going to invite people to start lining up at the microphone right there, which is right there. Don't be shy. And while you're doing that and thinking of good questions, I'm going to continue to ask you more. But seriously, people, start going up there. All All right. So I want to ask you about the TV appearances that you had
Oh God.
for this. What? Oh God. What? We want to hear. They're super glamorous and they're
very
super fun.
glamorous.
And you're also going back to like a thing that you've done, and also there is a TV anchor in the book. So what's the reception been like? And how was
So
it? And how was
fun.
it?
Okay, so my dear friend Ashley, who also couldn't be here tonight, was actually my intern at CBS and babysat Jasper and and she's now this incredible, amazing publicist she's just absolutely amazing. So she got me those little gigs.
Oh, that's
And
amazing.
so it was a total full circle thing that
That's
happened
so
there.
great.
And it was so funny though, because I hadn't been on a TV set in a really long time.
Yeah.
It's totally different. It's like quiet.
Oh.
Like I remember the newsroom, just like the control room, everything just felt like it's very automated.
Yeah.
But there's a reason I'm a producer and director is like I don't like being on camera. Like this is really hard for me. So it was hard. But the hardest thing was that they don't do your hair and makeup anymore, and I had to figure that out. So I was like completely. I'm so serious. That like totally tripped me up. Like I was terrified. Yeah.
I have to confess that to me, like that was the funnest, like the really, really fun part. I'm like, oh, hair and makeup. That's kind of cool.
See, on the national programs, I think they do, but the local ones not so much. And, oh my God. That was crazy. I was like running into Sephora, like, help. Yeah.
Oh, but Sephora's great for that. Okay. Yeah. So, all right, let's turn to the questions.
I have a more technical question, especially with 3 different individuals and everything. Do you use just Word or Scrivener, or what do you use?
Okay, like for all of our writing geeks out here, like Scrivener. Yeah. I love Scrivener.
I do too.
I love your shirt.
Hooray for Scrivener.
And I love Scrivener. For those of you who don't know, it's a software program to write, and it just lets you break things up in a really lovely way, and it just makes it easy. I love it. Scrivener, write in Scrivener, and Scrivener pay me. Yeah.
Hello and congratulations. I couldn't come to your event and not ask you a probing question. Was there something you were trying to personally work through in your past rather than your present in this book?
Oh, what an excellent question.
Carol.
I love that.
I should have been quaking when I saw Carol standing there.
Juicy.
One of the things I struggle with actually is that a lot of people talk about how this book deals with grief and like in a really like people have been very receptive and positive about it, and I've had grief in my life, but I've never had anything quite like this. No. And my mother is very much alive. Thank you. Hi, Mom, again. So like not specifically, but I think that I'm a journalist and I keep my eyes open and I listen and I hear stories, and I've heard a lot of stories, and I've told a lot of stories of people who've had a lot of grief and trauma, and that sort of bled in, I think. Yeah.
Hey, Jen, and congratulations, and it's great to be here while you're checking off a bucket list item. My question is, I don't know what the quantum mechanics that you were thinking of and how, to what extent each character went off in their own direction, but I'm wondering to what extent it was about helping each character do things differently versus cope with what they were going to experience.
Ooh. I don't know, Brian. School teacher asking me hard questions. This is like tripping. I get the 2 hardest questions. Tuli, give me an easy one after that. I honestly don't know, Brian. I have no answer for you. I don't know.
Well, this is not going to be an easier question than the one, because I wanted to ask you, and I imagine as you were writing this, what would you tell your younger self about something, and what do you think your older self would tell you about the time that you're in right now? Because that's what I was thinking about as I was reading it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is such an incredible, the present is so incredible. So I don't know if you...
No, I think but in writing this book, I actually, well, not perfect, have become much more compassionate with myself. Mm-hmm. Like it has forced me at moments to sort of check myself and remember, like, things about my life and where I've been and what got me to whatever this emotion or feeling. Like it's been very helpful, actually.
Yeah.
Does that
Good
answer your question?
Psychological
Yeah.
tool in a
Yeah,
way.
yeah. I don't
Yes.
have like a specific, I would tell my younger self X, because you'd have to be about so many things. But
Right.
I do
Right.
I do now love my younger self more than I used to.
Oh, I love that. Yes.
She was really cute.
I wonder if that also has to do with your daughter. You know, right? Yeah.
So I love my daughter. And yes, her middle name is Emilia. Some of you know that. That is like, so this is just a little side story.
Yeah.
I'll get to in a second, Erica. So when I was trying to find a name that I could have like 3 nicknames that would work together, I could only come up with Elizabeth. And like, you know, Elizabeth is a beautiful name, but Elizabeth, it just like didn't feel right for this character. And Emilia and Millie and M just kind of struck. And so then I did ask Lila for her permission, and she gave it to me, and I did spell it differently. I mean, I think so much. I mean, I think about our relationship, and I think about you more than I think about anything else. So it makes sort of sense. This is not about us. This is not our story. I hope I have a much better relationship with Lila than Emilia did with her mother. But yeah, I mean, being a mom
or
is
Millie has with her
yeah.
her daughter. Yeah.
And I'm like so grateful that I have a career that allows me flexibility and time that I can spend with you in a way that, you know, Amelia's mom couldn't.
Yeah.
So yay.
Oh, love that. Love that. Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
So I came up to the mic because I wanted to share an observation based on everything that we've talked about tonight, and also ask an unrelated question.
Excellent.
The observation is that I was sitting here and I was realizing something about my mother-in-law, who is 88 years old, and her relationship with the present tense is not great, but she remembers the past very well. And she, for a long period of time, would talk about this girl that she would take care of. She would talk about this young girl that she was charged with taking care of. Yeah, and we kept trying to piece together whether there was anything to it, whether there had been a time that she had babysat, or she would talk about this happening at this beach house that she would go to. And at a certain point, we realized there was no girl. She was talking about her younger self.
That's
she was
incredible.
talking about, you know, being that. It was.
That's incredible.
gives me
That's absolutely
goosebumps.
incredible. Yeah.
So I connect it to your book.
Love
It's caring
that.
for ourselves at different times. My question, unrelated, is about making time to write, because you are an inspiration to all of us, because on top of you know, writing beautiful books, you also have a completely amazing career, a wonderful family, all these loving friends who are out here tonight, and you still make some time to write. So for those in the audience, many of us are writers, but many are also people who want to make a little more time in their lives. What advice can you give about kind of carving out a little space when you don't have any space?
Actually, the best advice I ever got was from Susan Shreve, who had
who's here
4
tonight?
wonderful. Where?
Yeah.
Hi. I once asked Susan how she's these wonderful children and this incredibly busy life and has written so many books, and I was like, how do you do that? And she said to me, just like whenever she could, like when she just grabbed time and she just made it, like there is no magic. It's just, you just do it. And Susan is my inspiration.
Mine too.
Oh.
I'm so glad you're here. I didn't see you.
Hi, I really enjoy the conversation today a lot. My question is going to be, first of all, telling stories is an amazing thing in our life. And even creating stories to tell sometimes it becomes really hard because we are people. To me, like I'm from South Sudan and I grew up in a refugee camp for 22 years. And today instead of writing books, because I've never been to school, I make video game to tell stories. I'm actually working on a video game right now about my mother. But my question is going to be like, when you're creating as a creator, as an artist, you know, like there's a lot, it's a long journey. But my question is, why didn't you give up? Like, why do you keep creating?
Why do you keep creating?
Yeah.
Because there's no other choice. You just, that's what makes us human, I think. I think we're storytellers, right? And for me, I need to share whatever craziness is going on in my head. I think, but we all have stories going on in our heads, and yeah, I just there's no other choice.
Oh, yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
No, I love that. Do you feel like your storytelling through the visual medium in, with film, which is more nonfiction based and other people's stories and things like that, how do you think that affects your fiction writing for you?
I mean, like I said, I think I've been given such a gift in my other career that you go into people's lives and you just learn so much every single day when you're meeting these people and they're sharing their stories. So I think that that's a lot of it. There's also just a craft thing, like in TV especially, you have to learn how to write really succinctly.
Yeah.
Your words matter. Every word matters because it's timed, right?
Yeah.
And so it's been really helpful in that way as well.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. Have your books gotten shorter over time?
This is a really short book.
Yeah, no, I know. And your memoir was longer, right?
They're all, I mean, I don't remember how many pages that was, but this is definitely a short book. Yeah.
Yes.
Hi. This is fantastic. I can't wait to read the book. I love the interplay of the three generations, and I'm so curious, at the end of the day, is there one of the three that you really love the most?
No.
Oh.
But I do feel like Millie was the hardest to write.
Sure.
And I actually, like, rereading it, getting ready for this, like, I wish I had spent more time on Millie. And I kind of wish I could go back and do that. But
she's the hardest to get in touch with, right?
Well,
Because
also,
she's
like,
the
I know
future.
what it was like to be a teenage girl, and I remember vaguely what it was like to be a 47-year-old woman. But I don't know yet what it's like to be a 77-year-old woman. And I'd like to have spent more time with her. Yeah.
Well, and also she's living in the future. So stuff is going on that she's alluding to about what's happening now. That's so fun.
Oh my God. So like
that is so fun for me.
The whole, there's a little mention of Trump 1. And when Trump 2 happened, I was like, oh my God, like if I could have to change this, what am I going to do with it? And I just had to keep remembering, like, the characters are in this, they're in 2017. Well, Emilia's in 2017. But, thinking about what Millie's life in Washington, D.C. would be like in 2047, it's kind of, talk about, like, a depressing day when I was kind of cranky afterwards.
Yeah. And also, like, how she's looking at the phone and the iPad that she has, that M is like going, what is this? And yet, like, she knows exactly how to use it within, like, seconds.
And her thumbprint worked.
Yes, exactly. Yes. I loved all of that. But then, like, she's like, oh, yeah, that's so interesting, the phone thing that I forgot about. And you're like, what's happening 30 years from now?
That we don't have
it's
a phone,
so
right?
fun.
Right.
Yeah. So if you have more questions, feel free to come up, but I'm going to spend another 5 minutes or so asking you some more questions. So I wanted to know, were there any touchstones, like novels or stories or movies, TV, anything that you kind of like kept returning to that inspired you as you were writing this? I don't know about you, but for me, like, I have a set of things that, like almost become like habit or routine. Like my writing routine is reading like a couple of paragraphs of whatever story that is like my touchstone for that book. And I wondered if you had anything like that. I know your comps were like Una Out of Order, and
so
things like that.
I did try to read some other sort of time travel books. And they were like less helpful than I wanted them to be, but they're still fun. But since I've written it, actually, I've been enjoying kind of time travel, speculative fiction more than before.
Oh.
Like, I think I have a new admiration for what it takes to write that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that logic that you have to like sort of go into it.
Like it's really fun to stretch your mind to imagine what happens when time bends.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And so there are some great books that do that very, very well.
Yeah. Any favorites?
So I'm going to botch the title, but I think it's called On the Calculation of Volume.
Okay.
Somebody here at Politics and Prose could help me. But there are 7 books in this series, which sounds really daunting, but they're all like half the size of this one.
Oh my God, that's great.
And they all take place, this woman's stuck in a day. So she's stuck in the same day, and like the world is happening around her.
So it's kind of like Groundhog Day.
But not really.
Okay.
No, I mean it's so like that's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Anyway, check it out. It's
Okay.
it's a really cool meditation on small details of life. Actually,
Oh,
like
very
really
cool.
particular small things.
Yeah.
I highly recommend. I'm on
I
volume
love
2
that.
now.
Oh,
but
that's
there's 7.
awesome.
Yeah.
And what are you working on now? My favorite last
I'm working
question for
on
everybody.
a documentary
Especially-
with Miriam.
Oh, yes.
that has
Yes.
completely consumed me. But
That's going to be coming out soon?
no.
No? Okay. All right. Okay.
There's a court case that's tripped us up. I have 2 novels that are like sitting there in the top drawer that I'm now.
Oh, are these the ones that
other
you
2,
decided not to
right.
go with?
And I'm like, I think the one I'm going to put myself out. I'm just going to say this so that it makes me work on it. But the premise of the novel is that there's this young woman whose grandmother rather, has Alzheimer's, and in her Alzheimer's, she starts packing to go somewhere, and she starts revealing some family secrets, and she discovers some things about her. Well, she, again, fairly quickly discovers that her grandfather, who was this like totally menschy, wonderful, sweet guy, was actually involved with Meyer Lansky and the Jewish mafia. So it's very different from this book.
Oh,
But I-
wow. So interesting. There must be so much like fun research to go.
I
mean, I don't know
read
about fun,
a lot
but
of
a lot of
books.
research.
Yeah. No, I mean, I started that one years and years ago, and I have like a bookshelf of weird Jewish mafia books.
Oh, very, very interesting. I love that.
So I think I want to go back to that one, partly because again, world is completely insane.
Yeah.
Our day job is a really depressing story,
Yeah.
and to be able to like let yourself have fun and think
Yeah.
about something that has nothing to do with all this is
Yeah.
good. And that one would do that for me.
Yeah, and also what I love about the trajectory of your writing career is that you haven't like allowed yourself to just get stuck into one genre. Like, you know, you weren't like, oh, this memoir that was like a New York Times editor's choice and it was like got rave reviews, so I'm just gonna stick to memoir and do, you know what I mean? And you've done a satire, you've done so many different things, and I love that you're going into like historical fiction now, you know?
Kind of, I
Which
guess
is
it is.
totally,
Didn't even
yeah,
occur to me.
it-
Yes, I
totally
guess it is.
historical fiction, maybe a little bit of a thriller, right? Like something like that. So I love that because I love that you're just doing it for you instead of like, you know, doing what an editor might want or a publisher might want you to do, or, you know, which is like stick to the same lane, which I hate when people do that.
I mean, that would be pretty bleak because the chances, I mean, you've had amazing success, and I like talk about envy, my God, but chances are pretty good. Like this, maybe some people will read it and like it, and that's lovely, but it's really, really hard to actually have a book sell big. So you better enjoy what you're writing.
Yeah.
And if you don't, why are you
Definitely.
doing it? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much for this. Thank you so much to Politics and Prose. Yay! Happy Pub Day. And everyone, if you haven't already gotten a copy or two, please feel free to go. And books make great gifts. Father's Day is